Hi, everybody. Welcome to today's Career Chat. I'm Krista Harmon, one of the career readiness consultants at the Kent Intermediate School District, and I welcome Leslie Kirschenbauer today. She's a health instructor at the Kent Career Technical Center. Welcome, Leslie.
Hi, thank you.
So, Leslie, you're an instructor now, and I know you have a background in OT. So let's go back to when you're in high school, though. The young people love to hear what you were thinking back then. Did you have it all figured out? Did you know exactly what you were doing? Give those early thoughts.
Yeah, I didn't have it all figured out. I had a thought that I may want to be a teacher of elementary school kids. And then I said, oh, maybe I want to be a nurse. I kind of like the human body. But I actually figured out what OT was through just doing like a career readiness type activity at my home school or at my high school. When I was like a sophomore or junior in high school, I took a career aptitude test. And it came up with I was well fit for the human services. So kind of aligned with what I had personally felt. Something working with people is what I'd be good at. So I looked down the list and I remember just looking at this sheet of paper and I'm like, I know what all these things do except for occupational therapists. What does an occupational therapist do? So I started asking around and started doing some research and found out that I actually had family members and friends that had seen an OT at some point in their life. And so I just looked into that and it really started to appeal to me. It kind of blended teaching and health together. I didn't have to poke anybody. That was what I didn't want to have to give any little kids shots because I didn't want to make them cry. That was my, I remember that was like the thing that I was so worried about in high school. I didn't want to make anybody cry. So in that, I just started to pursue that and kind of look for schools within Michigan that had occupational therapy programs. So that was kind of my first shot at occupational therapy and kind of figuring out that that's what I wanted to do. It was kind of, and then the rest is history type of thing. So it was my first go at it.
Well, I love, first of all, that sometimes young people think those career tests are, stupid. And I get there. Sometimes you get really bad results,
Mm-hmm.
but sometimes they work. So I love to hear that story that yours actually worked and that you did the action step of talking to people. So that's really important, young people, is to talk, ask questions, do some research online. There's videos of all sorts of jobs out there, do that research, because how are you going to know what you don't know? Like Leslie said, you didn't even know what it was.
Right.
Awesome. So you found a school in Michigan that had it. And so was it a 4-year degree for you? What was the schooling like?
The schooling was, I had, now I was dead set on going to U of M. U of M was my number one school, born and bred U of M fan. That's where I was headed. Nobody was going to tell me otherwise. But as I started to do my research, they did not have an OT program. So it was kind of this like crossroads in life, right? What are you going to do? And I ended up applying to Michigan, but then I also applied to schools that had OT programs. OT is occupational therapy is a graduate level program. So you need to have a master's to be able to practice. And so there were a handful of master's level programs in Michigan. One of them was at Grand Valley. One of them was at Western that I had found. And I said, okay, I'll apply to those two, but I'm going to go to U of M. That was my thing. So I ended up applying to all three, knowing deep down that I probably should go to a place that had occupational therapy and not just plan on going somewhere than transferring. But I just had it dead set. So I ended up getting waitlisted at U of M and did not get in there or did not get full admission in there. So I said, okay, I got to go. I got to keep moving forward. So I ended up choosing Grand Valley. And I went and pursued my education there for my bachelor's because you have to get your bachelor's degree. You have to get your 4-year degree first before you apply to any occupational therapy master's level program. So I got my bachelor's in exercise science from Grand Valley. And it was the best decision of my life. I had never been to the west side of the state, so I moved over here, never looked back, and it was just a beautiful side of the state. Met beautiful people, wonderful people that and I was able to network with and kind of sink my roots down here and make a home for myself. And yeah, so I did my bachelor's degree in exercise science. I got a minor in psychology from Grand Valley, and then I continued on right after my bachelor's degree. I did a 2-year program at Grand Valley for occupational therapy, and then I graduated with my master's. So, and then I was able to go out and practice. I had to pass a big licensing exam for occupational therapy. Had to pass that. It was kind of a big, scary test. And then I was able to go out and practice.
So there's a couple things I want to pull out of that. One, as young people, sometimes we get our hearts set, like you said, on U of M, and there was no other way. And the world shut that door for you.
Right.
And that can be really devastating. And you wonder, what am I supposed to do? And
Right.
so what wisdom can you give to young people about that?
You kind of, you kind of find your way where you're meant to be, right? I mean, like I said, I was all eyes on that, and everything else was kind of a second choice. And like you said, life kind of shut that door, and it was for better. Due to being able to go to Grand Valley for my bachelor's, I was able to kind of get the lay of the land, know the exact classes at Grand Valley that were able to best suit me to apply to their OT program. I was able to work one-on-one with the advisors that knew people in that occupational therapy program at Grand Valley. I was able to meet people I would be going to school with for Grand Valley. And it just, there was more of a buzz about the program. When I was going through my bachelor's, I just knew more about the OT program because I was involved already with classes and campus life and clubs pertaining to OT during my bachelor's degree process. So it worked, and it was just where I was meant to land. Yeah.
I love that, because it can seem so devastating at the time.
Right.
And there's also a lot of pressure on young people to get just the right 4-year degree that, you know, and somebody get nervous, they're going to lock in and not have flexibility. So you got exercise science, where some of your classmates have other undergrads. Give us some ideas of what other things you can do.
So I got my bachelor's in exercise science with the hope that if I didn't get into OT school, I could fall back and work for a year with that degree. If I would have walked out with a psychology major, it may have not given me a certificate to walk out and get an exact job in psychology or what have you. So I did exercise science, and some fellow coworkers, colleagues, or classmates of mine, they were studying to be athletic trainers, corporate fitness and wellness planners. They would work, people that I was going to class with, some of them wanted to go work for like a big corporation like Steelcase or Spectrum and be a corporate wellness planner. So they wanted to plan wellness initiatives for the staff at these bigger corporations. I had people that wanted to go and work with students and do coaching and help with student athletes in some way after their college. So yeah, it was just kind of a mixed bag. There was a lot of people in my class that were seeking graduate level programs like PT and OT and kinesiology, maybe at another institution, like a master's in kinesiology or movement science. And they were seeking that out as well. But I would say a lot of people kind of fell into those other categories as well.
Yeah, that's great. And I hope some of the young people just heard some of those other career ideas. You know, so many of them may not even been aware of the corporate wellness, and that big companies do have their own trainers and health educators on staff, and that's very exciting. So young people, if that sounds interesting, make sure you do some research. I also wanted to spend a little time, you mentioned campus life, and I think as young people head off to college, they might not be aware that there's clubs on campus that are for your major. So tell us more about that, and what was that experience like, and why was that a good thing for you to do?
I was involved in a pre-OT club. So once I got to Grand Valley, I was like, well, I'm here. I'm dead set on getting into their OT program. I got to immerse myself and equip myself with any kind of tools that I can to be able to better educate myself in what I need to do to get into that program. So as a pre-OT club member, it was everybody that I was that was also seeking to go into an OT program after they graduated with their bachelor's. So we a lot of the times would do just community service, just to kind of get to know each other and hang out and just talk about our classes that we're taking. We also used a lot of that time when we met to talk to current professors in OT programs and current OTs, and talk about like the national board test and what that looks like. It was just a good prep. It was a great thing to just prep me for what was to come. And again, like what you had said with networking and kind of getting to know people, it was a great way for me to just get to know and put my face in front of the professors that may be teaching me one day.
Yeah, I was a first generation college student, and I look back, and that's probably one area that I didn't take full advantage of because I just didn't know about it. I just didn't
Right.
know that there were those clubs, and so I look back, oh, I wish I would have known. So young people, we're making sure you know. Which I love.
Right.
So you became an occupational therapist,
Yep.
and we have had occupational therapists. We don't spend a lot of time on that, but what did you like about that, and what was the step that you used then to transition into being a health educator?
I I loved OT. I ended up working with older adults right out of OT school. I worked in a nursing home and I worked with my lovely older adult patients. I thought I was going to work with kids. That was my, again, and the life roadblock came. I thought I was going to work with kids and do pediatric OT and work in the schools. That was my mindset. But then I did my first clinical with older adults and I fell in love with them. They have beautiful, wonderful stories to share. And they're just kind people from a different generation. And most of them were kind people. But I found my niche with them. So worked with them. And then I transitioned into home care with older adults after that. And I was on the road driving all around West Michigan, doing occupational therapy for patients that were homebound. So they couldn't get out of their house very easily. It was like therapy was brought to them. So I did that with them. And after about 5 years of that, I had gotten married, had 2 little kids, and said, I got to kind of be in one place just in case they get sick, or I got to be closer to home. So I started the job search to kind of transition into maybe more of a one-stop set or one building setting to have my job in. And I had always loved mentoring students that were trying to get into OT school. I have a friend that works at Grand Valley, and she would kind of pass students along to me that would need just some experience hours or want to talk to an OT. So I always really loved that part of my kind of giving back, I guess, or just kind of my paying it forward. I loved that part of my job. And so when this came up to work with young people and be able to share my passion for health and my love for anatomy and just the human body, and then to be able to share that with them while also kind of sharing my OT experiences, it was just such a cool fit. It just was such a cool environment that I thought it would be fun to work in. So I tried out for the job, interviewed, and got it. And so here I am 3 years later. I'm loving every day.
I just love that part of your story because, again, you don't know what you don't know. And
Right.
I think even with thinking you wanted to work with children and you end up falling in love with the elderly, you had mentioned you earlier thought that you wanted to work with elementary students. So I just love that young people, your 2 passions can come together, and I just love these kind of career chats where we can help you understand. Because if you want to raise your hand, how many of you already know that you have kind of a teacher's heart, and that there's something about this teaching and healthcare that sounds interesting to you? Because I have a teacher's heart, but I don't want to be in a classroom every day. My husband's a 2nd grade teacher, but I get to teach kids in different environments. So just as a reminder, young people, that you can do teaching in a variety of ways. So great. And so you applied for this job at the tech center. So for those on the call that may not know what a tech center is, our Kent Career Technical Center, Leslie, why don't you give a quick overview of what that's about?
Right. So Kent Career Tech Center, we are a campus off the East Beltline, and we have a big, huge school dedicated to technical education. So the cool part about our school is that you are taught, if you choose to come here as a usually sophomore, junior, or senior. I teach mostly juniors, but if you decide to come here, you come here for 2 hours and 15 minutes of your school day every day of the week. And you come spend time with us. And we have different various wings dedicated to all sorts of different trades and occupations. We have a whole health wing. There's an auto wing, a culinary wing. There is a more IT kind of computer graphic design wing. There is construction. I mean, any kind of occupation you want to try on, there is a class for it. But the cool thing about this place is that all the classes are taught by industry professionals. So people that used to be out working in the field, they bring their experience with them, and then they teach you about what you need to know about the profession and about the basics of whatever class you're in. But then they also share their on-the-job experience with you as somebody who used to work out in that profession. So me as an OT, I share a lot of my clinical stories while also teaching a lot about the human body and how it works. And we do a lot of hands-on labs and hands-on work with different kind of just fun hands-on learning. And that's kind of the theme for this school. It's a lot of hands-on learning from industry professionals. So.
And I think that's kind of unfortunately, the best kept secret about the tech center is that it is hands-on and you are working with people from industry. Because sometimes there's a myth. I know some of the parents' age of these kids like think, oh, it's for kids who aren't going to college. That's not true. You would get to go for free and get a hands-on experience to see, is this something I want to go spend thousands of dollars as I pursue? Yeah. Anything you want to plug on that for those young people who actually can fit this into their high school schedule?
Yeah, if you can fit it in, I mean, I would recommend it to anybody. I have students that I've had and they've tried out health careers and they said, this is maybe not for me. So instead of going and saying, I want to be a nurse for the next 3 years and then start paying and trying to get into nursing school before you haven't even really tried on and know that you want to do it. This is kind of that step right before it. And I just think it's great. I've had students that come into health and they say, maybe this is not for me. And that's totally fine. But we say, let's go send you down to student services. They're going to ask you some questions and maybe see what a better fit could be. Maybe you'd be best suited in automotive or in culinary. So it's just like you have like all these different options right outside your classroom if what you're in that year doesn't really work out. I mean, it's just a great way to like try on various hats before you have to go and pay money to become that hat or whatever. Right.
Yeah, I worked there for 4 years, so I'm a big fan. I think what you guys do there is
it's a great place. I love it.
Copy and paste that into your browser, young people, if you're not familiar with the tech center. So what's your favorite part of your job?
Favorite part of my job, I love creativity. I love bringing my love of the human body and kind of meshing it with being creative and presenting lessons to my students in fun ways. I love that. I love getting to know my students. I get a different group every year. I teach 2 classes and I just get different groups every year. But those students are like, they come from all over Kent County. And normally we don't have a huge representation from one single school. So all these students come in as strangers and then they start to get to know each other. And a lot of the times you create these long-lasting friendships from the tech center. So I love just watching that and then getting to know all my students and their different walks of life and their backgrounds and what they bring. And this class brings out a lot of their characteristics that they maybe didn't know they had. So being able to watch that as well, it's awesome. It's awesome to be able to be kind of in this right before you go out into the big adult world part of somebody's life.
Yeah, 2 of my kids went to the tech center and that's absolutely what they loved about it. They got to get away from their high school and meet all new people from all over Kent County, 20 districts, and had all new friends. And they just absolutely loved it. Even if their homeschool had a snow day, they still wanted to go to the tech center. Even though it was at 6:55 in the morning, they were there. They didn't want to miss it. It was so great.
Right.
What do you not like about your job?
My current job, I mean, it is kind of early. And sometimes you have those days where it's just busy. You gotta spin a lot of different plates at once. If you've heard that, that adage before. You have a lot of things that you have to manage. You got to make sure your students are doing good and they're here. A lot of students have things going on in their home life or their personal life, and we got to kind of make sure that everything's okay so they can be here to learn. And then we got to make sure everybody's getting their tests taken care of. It's just a lot, but it's fun. It's fun chaos. But it can get kind of busy and hairy sometimes, which is part of any job, right? But it's just kind of you take that as kind of the more stressful part, and then the good parts outweigh the overly stressful days.
Yeah, that's the ratio you want. You want the
right.
good.
Right, always in any job.
So one of the students on your private message, they really want to work with the elderly. That's something they know for sure they want to do. And so they were thinking nursing, but now you've opened their minds to OT. What are some other jobs that you might be able to suggest that you can work with the elderly?
I would say if you want to work with the elderly, there's there is a overwhelming amount of different health occupations that you can do. A lot of the times I would work very closely as an OT with nurses. I'd also work with social workers, medical social workers, and they would help with making sure that our older adult patients had everything they needed. They would make sure that they had people to take care of them if they needed it. They'd make sure that they were safe in their home. There's also like therapeutic recreation specialists, and they would plan activities at our nursing home. They would plan outings for our residents at our nursing home. They just make sure our residents were having joy in life. And so that was a cool profession. Social workers and rec therapists or rec therapists, physical therapists. And then along with physical therapy and OT, you guys, there's occupational therapy assistants and there's physical therapy assistants as well. So if you're like, master's degree, I don't know if I want to do that. Occupational therapy assistants do very similar work to an OT, but they only have to get a 2-year associate's degree to practice, and you have to pass a national board exam as well. And you're in there and doing the same work as an OT, working side by side with an OT. You're just not doing what they call evaluations, and you're doing a little bit less paperwork sometimes. Same thing goes with physical therapy. There's physical therapy assistants, and they work side by side with the PT carrying out treatments. And it's a 2-year associate's degree and passing a national board. So those are other options for working with the elderly as well.
I love that you brought that up. I always try to make sure young people know about the OTA and the PTA, because it's a 2-year degree. There's a huge demand for them. They average about $55,000 a year for just a 2-year degree. It's fantastic.
It's wonderful.
One of our guests wants to know, did you have to get a teaching certificate? Because we know you have your master's in OT, but now you're in a school. So how does that work? What kind of special training do you need?
So when I started at the tech center, they give you a chunk of years to get your tech ed teaching certificate. So it's 3 graduate level courses that you usually have to take at Western. That's where they offer them. And I did them during when COVID was more prevalent, very rampant. And so I did it all online, but I had to take 3 courses through Western to get my certified career tech ed teaching certificate.
Yeah, so that's a special credential, everyone. So you don't have to go back to a 4-year degree and become a teacher.
Nope.
That's one of those big myths out there that, you know, you have to do that. And so really, I have to kind of plug some of the sweet parts of being a teacher. Got summers off, got holidays off. Tell us about some of those perks of this kind of job.
Yeah, I mean, I have 2 little kids. I was telling Krista that I have a 3-year-old and a 1-year-old, and when I worked home care, that was part that I was missing, is nights at home with them. I would be on the road sometimes till 6 or 7 o'clock at night, which was fine when, you know, my husband and I were newlyweds and when I was single, because I didn't have a little kid to take care of. But now I get home at a really nice time. I can go pick them up from daycare. I can stay home with them if they're sick, because our schedule is really forgiving for that. We're able to do life really nicely with having summers to spend with them. It's a beautiful rhythm. So for the time that I'm at in life, it fits, and it fits really well. So that's a great perk.
Yeah, and I love that we're just sharing that, because when you were younger, you didn't need that family life balance. That wasn't an issue, like you said. And now it is. So your career continued to evolve and you found something that is a great fit for you. I love it. If anyone has a question that they want, be sure to put it in the chat and I'll ask. What is one of the, if you were to do it all over again kind of things, would you change anything as far as your journey?
I don't think I would. I think life kind of guided me where I needed to go. And it put people in my life that I needed to meet in order to kind of to learn where I needed to go. So I wouldn't regret anything that I did. I think a big thing that I discussed with some like early mentors in my life, or that just kind of was instilled on me, was like, you kind of create your own path, but you also have to be open and willing to kind of ebb and flow where you need to go. But you have to take the reins, you know, you have to go and find those phone numbers and do cold calls to clinics that you want to go supervise. You have to just talk with people and have conversations with people that you find in life, and just kind of see where that leads you. So I have people that mentored me that I'm still in contact with now, and I have the same. I have people that I've mentored that still keep in contact with me, and it's just a nice thing. Sometimes you hear it's not about what you know, it's who you know. And so if I can instill any of that on you, just don't burn bridges and keep an open, mind and heart to whoever can come and guide you where you need to go in life.
If young people take anything from this talk, Leslie, I hope that's what they'll take. That networking, being open to change on the journey, being intentional at college to be part of student organizations, I just love it. Oh, that's all such good advice.
Good.
I'm going to let you think about a final word of wisdom as I share out a couple just real brief resources for young people as they're thinking about what they want to do, and they still need to do some more research. So let me get this ready for you guys. Oh, I think I shut it down. I just shut it down. Might take me a minute. Shoot. Yeah, hang on, everybody. I might not be able to pull this up as fast as I want. Go ahead and if you have a word of wisdom, and then maybe I can finish off with this resource.
Yeah, I just to piggyback off of what I was just saying. I mean, those are just kind of the things that have been instilled in me, is just kind of going with where life takes you, and not being afraid of change, and being open to people who can kind of change your path. You create your own happiness. You create your own happiness in life, and it's a wonderful thing to if you are able to kind of succumb to that. You will find the place where you're happy to go and work every day, because you got to do it every day for the rest of your life, So if you can find that good fit and be open to letting life kind of land you where you need to be, I think that's only what we can strive for. So you just got to do your best, keep pushing forward every day, and it'll take you where you need to go.
Yeah, that's great advice. I'm struggling to pull up the screen that I want to share, you guys. I'm sorry.
Okay.
I'm gonna put it in the chat though, the website that I love. It's called ONET Online, and it's a federal website that has over 800 jobs, and it gives you data on what kind of money do they make, what a typical day is like. Even with a health educator title, there's other titles that these kind of jobs are called. So it helps you really do a great job exploring. And I'll just put this into the chat and you can cut and paste it. I love it because there's also health educators in the hospitals, for example, people who are neonatal nurses, but now they're the ones training new nurses. So health education is this whole thing. And I love that you're working with high school students, but again, you can work with colleagues that are learning their skills, as they develop being a nurse, for example.
Right.
There's educators who help them, right? Everybody's starting to put thank yous in there. Lots of thank yous.
Yes.
Thank you for making time.
Of course.
To be with us today.
Of course. Anytime.
All right, and I'll be sure to send over this link so that you can share it with your students so they can watch.
Oh,
you
yes.
being the guest.
Wonderful. I'll blast that out on Remind. Make sure you watch Miss K today.
Extra credit.
Yeah, extra credit. Watch me talk again.
Awesome. Well, thanks everybody for coming today.
Thank you,
we'll be back next week. We're starting next week. We have one more week of health, and then we'll be on to STEM occupations, which are something that you guys might be interested as well. So
cool.
All right. Well, have a good day, Leslie. Thanks, everybody.
Thank you. You too. Thanks so much, guys. Bye.